Have you ever thought to yourself, I already took the Bodhisattva vows, so why is my temper still the same? My bad habits still there? And my life still such a mess? Have you ever quietly doubted, if I am still full of confusion and stress after such an important ceremony, was it all just symbolic? Or is there something wrong with me? Welcome back to the channel, my friend. I am your companion on this long road of awakening, wisdom, cause and effect, compassion, practice, and destiny. Today we are going to talk about something that many sincere practitioners secretly worry about but often do not dare to say out loud. Why does life sometimes look almost unchanged after taking the Bodhisattva vows? And what kind of preparation is actually needed before such a huge step so that it truly reshapes your destiny instead of becoming just a powerful label glued onto an unchanged life? The text we are expanding from makes a very important point. The problem is not that the Bodhisattva vows do not work. The problem is that many of us treat them like a spiritual tattoo instead of a lifelong contract. We rush in without understanding what we are signing, without preparing the ground of our mind, without strengthening the roots of refuge, ethics, and genuine bodhisattva. Then, when our temper flares, our desires pull us around, and life hits us with tests, we get disappointed and think, so much for vows. In this long conversation, I want to walk with you slowly, like an old friend sitting down over a warm drink. We will talk about what the Bodhisattva vows really mean, why the preparation before taking them is as important as the ceremony itself, how cause and effect work behind the scenes, and how supporting the three jewels, studying key texts, and training in small ways every day are actually the hidden homework that makes those vows come alive. And we will do it through stories, because stories let us see ourselves more clearly than right theory ever can. Imagine you hear someone say, I already took the Bodhisattva vows, so why am I still so easily angry? Why do I still get jealous, still complain, still drown in anxiety? Why did the vows not magically upgrade my personality? Maybe that someone is you. In one sense, that question is very honest. In another sense, it reveals a hidden expectation many of us carry. We secretly hope that by kneeling in front of the altar, receiving a new Dharma name, and repeating solemn sentences, something in the universe will flip a switch and we will suddenly become a new person, less like a human being, more like a saint. But taking the Bodhisattva vows is not like installing new software into your phone. It is more like signing a lifelong training contract with your own deepest nature. It does not erase your past. It does not delete your habits overnight. What it really does is place a powerful seed, a guiding star, into the stream of your consciousness. The question is, before you plant that seed, have you prepared the soil? The traditional teachings say that the Bodhisattva vows are universal to all bodhisattvas and all Buddhas. In other words, they are not just a personal resolution. They are a doorway into the great current of all beings who have ever decided, I do not just want my own freedom. I want to help all beings awaken, no matter how long it takes. That is enormous. That is not just I want to be a nicer person this year. That is a promise measured in lifetimes. And like any huge project, it needs foundations. You would never build a skyscraper on soft mud. You would never send a fragile boat into a stormy ocean and call it a cruise ship. In the same way, you cannot simply jump into the Bodhisattva vows with a confused heart and scattered life and then blame the vows when things wobble. To feel this in a more concrete way, Let us walk through 3 different people who decide to take the Bodhisattva vows. You might find pieces of yourself in each of them. The first person we will call Alan. Alan is in his early 30s. He scrolls through spiritual videos online and feels deeply touched by stories of compassion and heroic sacrifice. One day, he sees an announcement on such and such date. The temple will confer the Bodhisattva vows. Without much thought, he signs up. His reasoning is simple. Taking the Bodhisattva vows sounds advanced. It sounds noble. If I do it, I will officially become a Bodhisattva. That must mean my spiritual level is high. And if my spiritual level is high, maybe my problems will shrink. Before this, he did technically take refuge. Someone invited him to a ceremony. He repeated the verses, received a little certificate. It felt touching for a few hours. Then he went home and lived exactly as before. He did not really study what refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha means. He did not change his habits much. If you asked him whether he protected his mind from destructive input, he would shrug. If you asked whether he kept the basic 5 ethical precepts seriously, he would joke, more or less. I try. On the day of the Bodhisattva vows, he dresses up neatly, arrives early, takes a lot of photos, and posts online. Today I officially became a Bodhisattva. The ceremony is grand. The chanting is moving. When he kneels, tears even come to his eyes. For a couple of weeks afterward, he feels a little more careful. When he almost snaps at someone, he remembers, I am a Bodhisattva now, and swallows a sentence. When a friend asks him to join in some shady business, he hesitates, but because he never really studied what the vows mean, never built a habit of checking his mind, he quickly slides back. The old patterns wake up. Soon he is complaining. Ever since I took these vows, my life is actually harder. People around me are more irritating. Work is more tiring. It is like some curse. Maybe I should not have taken them. Heavy feeling creeps in. Every time he breaks a precept, he thinks, I am terrible. I am a fake Bodhisattva. I am doomed. Instead of turning back toward the 3 jewels, he feels ashamed and gradually avoids the temple. Eventually, he stops going altogether, carrying a guilty lump in his chest whenever he remembers that ceremony. Now meet the second person, Anna. Anna also first encountered teachings online. She, too, felt deeply touched, but her steps are slower and more grounded. When she hears about taking refuge, she first studies what it means. She joins a beginner's group, listens to talks, and practices the refuge formula every day, not just as words, but as a direction in her heart. She begins to notice small changes. When something difficult happens, she naturally remembers, where can I turn for guidance? To confusion, or to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. After some time, she chooses to formally keep the 5 precepts avoiding killing, stealing, harmful sexual misconduct, lying, and intoxicants that cloud the mind. She does not keep them perfectly, but she takes them seriously. She used to have a sharp tongue. Now, she consciously tries to avoid harsh speech. She used to treat animals carelessly. Now she feels more tenderness. She used to think lying was a necessary tool. Now she tries to be more honest, even if it costs her a little face. At the suggestion of her teacher, she prints out a short classic text that encourages the aspiration for enlightenment and sticks it on her desk. Each day she reads a few lines. Some parts she does not fully understand, but she keeps reading and reflecting. Over time, the phrases sink in about seeing all beings as connected. about caring for others' suffering as her own. She also begins to help out at the temple. At first, just simple tasks: sweeping floors, washing dishes after events, arranging cushions. No one applauds. No one gives her a special title, but she feels that each small action is a way of saying, "I am here. I want to help," even in small ways. One day, after a few years of this slow, steady life, her teacher looks at her and gently asks, "Have you ever thought about taking the Bodhisattva vows?" Her heart jumps. "I have thought about it," she replies, "but I feel I am not good enough yet. I still get angry. I still have selfish thoughts." Her teacher smiles. "It is exactly because you know your limits that you are ready to think about vows. Someone who thinks they are already perfect is not ready. Someone who sees their flaws clearly and still wants to dedicate their life to the path of compassion and wisdom, that person is walking toward the Bodhisattva vows in a healthy way." From that moment, Anna does not rush to sign up. Instead, she deepens her reparation. She continues to live in accordance with refuge and precepts, studies scriptures about Bodhisattva, and reflects on what it really means to make such vows. When she finally kneels on the day of the ceremony, she knows inside this is not a sudden impulse. This is the fruit of years of preparation. This is a new chapter in a story I have already been writing with my daily life. Now meet the third person, an older woman we will call Grandma Lily. Grandma Lily never had much formal education. She cannot read long scriptures easily. She only knows a few short verses and a Buddha name. But for 30 years, she has done something simple and profound. Every morning and evening, she bows a few times, recites, and silently prays for the well-being of her family and all beings. She does not talk big about Bodhisattva or Bodhisattva, but in her village, everyone knows that if someone is sick, she will show up with warm food and kind words. If a neighbor's child is struggling, she will help with small tasks. If a quarrel breaks out, she will step in to calm things down. One day, a Dharma teacher visits the village, hears about her, and spends time listening to her stories. The teacher realizes that this older woman, without formal study, has been living the spirit of the Bodhisattva vows for decades. The teacher asks gently, "Would you like to formally take the Bodhisattva vows?" She is surprised. "Am I even qualified? I cannot read much. I still get angry sometimes." The teacher smiles. "You have been quietly doing what many vow to do but never live. The ceremony would not be the beginning for you. It would simply be an official confirmation of what you already are." So, in a simple ceremony, Grandma Lily receives the vows. For her, it does not feel like a dramatic transformation. Instead, it feels like the universe placing an official stamp on the decades of quiet service she has already offered. Now, among these three, whose practice is more stable? The answer is obvious. The one who took vows as a label without preparation is unstable. The one who prepared slowly, grounded in refuge, precepts, study, and service, is steady. The one who lived the spirit for years and then received the form is deeply rooted. From these stories, we can see clearly the missing preparation before taking the Bodhisattva vows is not some external rule invented by temples to make things complicated. It is a natural requirement written into the fabric of cause and effect. If you want to bind your destiny to the great vow of awakening for all beings, you need at least 3 layers of groundwork. First, a heart that has truly begun to rely on the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. instead of only relying on confusion. Second, a basic ethical life where the 5 precepts are not just words, but real guidelines you are sincerely trying to live by. Third, some familiarity with the mind of awakening itself, the aspiration to benefit others, studied through key texts and reflected on in your own heart. And then there is a fourth element that many people overlook, actually helping to support the places and communities where the Dharma lives. In other words, supporting the 3 jewels, not only with words, but with your time, effort, skills, and resources. Why does this matter? Because the Bodhisattva vows are not only about how you feel inside. They are about what you are willing to do with your life. When you sweep the floor of a temple, when you wash dishes after a ceremony, when you help organize a talk, when you comfort a newcomer who feels lost, you are training the muscles you will need to carry those vows through future storms. Let us listen to another story. There was a practitioner who, like Alan, felt very enthusiastic early on. He heard that the temple was going to hold a ceremony for the Bodhisattva vows and immediately registered. I will take them now and then slowly adjust later, he thought. But the resident teacher gently discouraged him. The teacher did not scold or reject him. Instead, he asked some questions. How long have you truly been living with refuge in your heart? How seriously are you keeping the 5 precepts? How do you respond when people treat you unfairly? Have you spent time actually serving the temple and the community? Would you be willing to spend a year volunteering here before taking the vows? The practitioner felt disappointed at first. He thought, am I not good enough? Have I been rejected? But something in him also recognized the wisdom in the teacher's eyes. He agreed. So he started showing up every week as a volunteer. At first, he was given the least glamorous jobs, cleaning toilets, mopping floors, wiping down meditation cushions, carrying heavy boxes of offerings. He had imagined that volunteering in a temple would feel wholly unpeaceful. Instead, it felt often like any other workplace: logistics, misunderstandings, tiredness. Sometimes other volunteers were grumpy. Sometimes he felt unseen or underappreciated. In those moments, his old self would rise up. Why am I doing this? They do not even say thank you. In my normal job, I get paid and at least people notice me. But because he had made a commitment, he stayed. Gradually, something began to change. One day, after hours of cleaning before a big event, he stood alone in the empty hall. The cushions weren't neatly arranged. The floor shone. The air was quiet. He suddenly felt tears in his eyes, not from exhaustion, but from a deep sense of meaning. He thought, tomorrow, people will come here with heavy hearts. They will sit on these cushions, listen to teachings, perhaps cry, perhaps feel hope. They will not know who cleaned the floor. They do not need to. But my sweat is part of their path now. I have served something bigger than my ego. In that moment, a kind of inner joy rose up that no salary or praise had ever given him. He later said, "It was during that year of cleaning and carrying that I realized what it means to be a Bodhisattva in daily life. It is not about wearing a big title. It is about being willing to do the simple things that support others' awakening." After that year, when the teacher asked him again about taking the Bodhisattva vows, his answer felt very different. He did not say, "I want a powerful ceremony." He said, "I want to officially commit to the kind of life I have already begun to taste." From the standpoint of cause and effect, that year of service was not just a requirement invented by the teacher. It was a way to accumulate the resources needed to carry the weight of the vows. Imagine you want to help rebuild many houses after a disaster. Your intention is noble, but if you yourself are starving, exhausted, and unbrained, how far can your intention go? You need food, tools, skills, and energy. The same is true for the Bodhisattva path. Your aspiration is the blueprint. Your resources are the concrete and steel. Service is one of the ways you gather those resources. Now, let us come back to the question that bothers many people. What if I already took the Bodhisattva vows without much preparation? What if I now realize I did not understand what I was doing, and my life has not changed much? Does that mean I have failed, or even done something unforgivable? If that is you, please breathe. You are not alone, and your situation is not hopeless. The vows you took are not dead words. They are living seeds. If you took them with even a small amount of sincerity, those seeds are already in your mind stream. They will not go away. They may feel heavy sometimes, like a weight reminding you of your shortcomings, but they can also become your greatest allies. Instead of using the vows to beat yourself up, you can use them as a gentle call to grow. You can say to yourself, maybe I jumped ahead. That is okay. From today forward, I choose to start building the foundations I skipped. I will deepen my refuge, take my 5 precepts more seriously, study Bodhisattva more deeply, and engage in concrete acts of service. In that way, I will grow into the vows I already took. Think of a person who adopts a child without really understanding what it means to be a parent. At first, they might be clumsy, unprepared, overwhelmed. They might make mistakes. But if, after those mistakes, they decide, I will now become the kind of parent this child deserves, and they commit to learning, changing, and showing up, then their initial ignorance does not doom the relationship. In a similar way, your initial lack of preparation does not doom your vows. What matters is what you do now. On the other side, maybe you are someone who has been hesitating for a long time. You feel drawn to the Bodhisattva ideals, but you keep thinking, I am not worthy. I am too flawed. I am afraid of failing. If so, your task right now is not to rush into the ceremony, nor to hide from it forever. Your task is to prepare, to use your daily life as training. You can start by making refuge real, not just a memory of a past ritual, but a living orientation. When you are confused, ask yourself, right now, am I thinking and acting? Am I leaning toward confusion or toward the direction of awakening? You can strengthen your 5 precepts one by one. If keeping all 5 feels overwhelming, start where you are weakest and take one more step. If you tend to gossip, work on your speech. If you tend to deceive, work on honesty. If you easily harm small beings without thought, practice more care. You can begin to read and listen to teachings on the mind of awakening, not as a theory, but as a mirror. Ask, where does my heart open? Where does it close? You can slowly join in supporting the Dharma at your local temple or even in online communities. You can ask, what needs to be done that no one wants to do? Then simply do it. If you walk this path for some time, you may find that one day when you kneel to take the Bodhisattva vows, it does not feel like a crazy leap. It feels like the next natural step on a road you are already walking. There is another important dimension to all of this: how the vows interact with your destiny. When you take the Bodhisattva vows, you are, in a sense, signing your name under a very large project helping all beings cross from suffering to awakening. That project does not fit into one lifetime. It stretches across many cycles of birth and death. From one angle, this is terrifying, from another. It is deeply beautiful because it means that your life is no longer just about your own comfort or success in this one short span of years. Your job, your family, your health, your struggles, and your talents all become places where this larger vow expresses itself. However, if you make such a vow without adjusting how you live, you will naturally experience friction. The universe will not punish you, but it will send you tests, opportunities to practice patience, compassion, generosity, and wisdom in real situations. If you interpret every test as bad luck, you will suffer more. If you interpret them as part of your training, you will grow. For example, after taking the vows, you may find that your temper is challenged more often. People push your buttons. Old hurts are stirred. You might think, why is this happening now? Of all times, from the angle of cause and effect, this is not random. When you commit to awakening, the old seeds of anger and selfishness in your mind are shaken loose. They surface so they can be seen and worked with. This is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that the practice has become real. If, in those moments, you simply say, "I am useless, my vows are fake," you are missing the point. But if you say, "This is exactly the material I promise to work with. I will not run. I will watch, reflect, apologize when needed, and ask for help from the Buddhas," then your vows and your tests begin to dance together. It is like someone who joins a training to become a healer. They should not be surprised when they are assigned difficult cases, when their own weaknesses are highlighted. It is through facing those challenges that they become capable. The Bodhisattva vows are similar. They invite reality to show you where you are still small, not to humiliate you, but to help you stretch. Now let us talk about something subtle but very important: the attitude you hold toward yourself as a Bodhisattva minus training. Some people, after taking the vows, become very harsh with themselves. Every mistake feels unforgivable. Every lapse becomes a reason to say, "I am disgusting. I am a disgrace." They think that by being strict in this way, they are honoring the vows. But often, this harshness is not wisdom. It is just another form of ego, the ego that says, either I must be perfect or I am nothing. The Bodhisattva ideal is not perfectionism. It is perseverance. Perfectionism says, I must never fall. Perseverance says, no matter how many times I fall, I will get up again and keep walking. In the long arc of the Bodhisattva path, what matters is not that you never break a precept, never have a selfish thought, never get angry. What matters is that you keep recognizing, keep repenting, keep repairing, and keep recommitting over and over. Think of a long mountain trail. The hikers who reach the top are not those who never slip on a rock. They are those who keep standing up after they slip, adjust their balance, and move on. Seen from this angle, taking the Bodhisattva vows without perfect preparation is not the end of the world. It simply means that your path will include the extra work of building a foundation under a structure that is already partially in place. Is it harder? Yes. Is it impossible? No. If you have not yet taken the vows, you can save yourself some pain by preparing first. If you already have, you can save yourself despair by building backward, strengthening refuge, ethics, study, and service now. Before we close, let me turn to you directly and ask, have you ever felt that gap between your vows and your daily life? The gap between who you promised to be in front of the altar and who you are when you are stuck in traffic, arguing with family, or clicking through the internet at midnight? If you have, I want to tell you that gap is the exact space in which your practice lives. If there were no gap, there would be nothing to train. If the gap is so wide that you feel like two different people, the pain you feel is actually your conscience calling you home. If you listen to that call with humility and courage, the gap will slowly shrink. Taking the Bodhisattva vows is like drafting a long-term plan with the Buddhas and all awakened beings. The preparation we talked about today is like writing the detailed sections of that plan, clarifying your current situation, your resources, your weaknesses, and your first steps. The clearer and more honest you are, the more stable your path will be. Now, my friend, I would love to hear from you. Have you ever thought seriously about taking the Bodhisattva vows? If you already have, how did you prepare? And what changed afterward? Did you face tests you did not expect? Did you ever feel discouraged and then find a way to stand up again? If you feel comfortable, I warmly invite you to share in the comments. Your story might be exactly the encouragement someone else needs. There may be someone watching who is on the verge of taking these vows or on the verge of giving up on them. Your experiences could be a lamp on their path. If this long script has given you a clearer understanding of why taking the Bodhisattva vows did not automatically change your life, and what you can do to make those vows truly alive, please remember to support the channel. You can subscribe so that you will not miss future explorations on awakening, wisdom, cause and effect, compassion, practice, and destiny. You can like this video to help it reach more people who are quietly confused about their vows. You can leave a comment to ask questions, share your reflections, or simply say, I am also walking this path. And if you feel called to support more deeply, you can become a member to help sustain this space where we talk honestly about the real work of spiritual life. Thank you, truly, for staying with me all the way to the end. May you prepare your heart well before making big promises. May you treat your vows not as a burden, but as a compass. May your refuge be deep, your ethics steady, your service joyful, and your study insightful. And may the Bodhisattva vows, whether you are walking toward them or already carrying them, slowly turn your destiny toward more light, more courage, and more boundless compassion. There comes a time when you realize you want something that belongs just to you, something that brings comfort and keeps you connected to your inner world. Wall-crafted bracelet does exactly that. Quietly, softly, and consistently. If you felt drawn to any bracelet in this video, you'll find the purchase link in the video description and many more auctions in the channel storefront. Because sometimes the smallest item can bring the biggest sense of peace.